Insane biology of hyena. What if I told you that everything you think you know about one of Africa's most notorious predators is a complete lie? I'm serious. For decades, we've been fed this story about hyenas being cowardly scavengers that live off the scraps of real predators like lions. Laughing fools of the savannah, right? Well, prepare to have your mind absolutely blown, because recent scientific breakthroughs have revealed hyenas to be some of the most intelligent, sophisticated, and downright bizarre creatures on the planet. Here's something that'll stop you in your tracks. Female spotted hyenas give birth through an 8-inch clitoris that functions as a penis. Yes, you heard that right. They're the only mammals on Earth that mate and give birth through the same opening, and it results in a 60% stillbirth rate. It's so traumatic that it sounds like nature made a catastrophic design error. But wait until you hear why this nightmare anatomy actually makes them evolutionary geniuses. And that's just the beginning. You're curious now, aren't you? Good, because you should be. What I'm about to show you isn't just another nature documentary filled with cute animal facts. This is a complete demolition of everything you thought you knew about one of nature's most misunderstood masterpieces. We're talking about creatures that consistently outsmart chimpanzees in intelligence tests, that hunt with a success rate that makes lions look like amateurs, and whose social structures are so complex they mirror human societies more than any other animal on Earth. We're going to dive into recent discoveries so shocking that they are rewriting biology textbooks as we speak. So buckle up, because you're about to discover why hyenas aren't just surviving in Africa, they're absolutely dominating it. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at these incredible predators the same way again. Now, let's obliterate the biggest myth of all, the one that's been poisoning our understanding of hyenas for generations. You've been told your entire life that hyenas are nothing more than opportunistic scavengers, right? Cowardly creatures that wait around for the real predators to finish their meals before skulking in to clean up the leftovers. It's such a deeply ingrained belief that even David Attenborough documentaries have perpetuated this narrative for decades. But here's where things get absolutely wild. Scientists armed with GPS collars, night vision cameras, and decades of meticulous field research have completely shattered this myth. And when I say shattered, I mean they've turned it inside out, stomped on it, and lit it on fire. The reality is so shocking that it's taken years for the scientific community to fully accept what the data was screaming at them. Are you ready for this? Spotted hyenas kill between 90 to 95% of everything they eat. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about animals that are actively hunting and killing nearly everything in their diet. These aren't scavengers. These are apex predators operating at a level that would make other carnivores weep with envy. But wait, it gets even more mind-blowing. Remember those king of the jungle lions that we've been told are the ultimate African predators? Well, buckle up, because this is about to get embarrassing for the big cats. Hyenas have a hunting success rate of 33% when hunting alone. That's already impressive. But when they work in coordinated groups, that number skyrockets to an absolutely devastating 74% success rate. Compare that to lions, who manage a pathetic 15 to 27% success rate, even when hunting in groups. Let me put this in perspective. If hyenas and lions were baseball players, hyenas would be Hall of Fame All-Stars, while lions would be struggling in the minor leagues. The mathematical reality is that hyenas are nearly 3 times more effective at actually catching and killing their prey than lions are. But here's where this story takes a turn that's so ironic it's almost comical. You know all those nature documentaries showing lions chasing hyenas away from kills? Well, it turns out we've been watching the story backwards. Recent long-term studies analyzing thousands of predator interactions have revealed that lions steal from hyenas far more often than hyenas steal from lions. In fact, when researchers examined shared carcasses between the two species, they found that 53% of those kills originally belonged to hyenas. Think about that for a second. The cowardly scavengers are actually having their hard-earned meals stolen by the supposed kings of Africa. Lions have essentially built their reputation on hyena labor, and we've been celebrating the thieves while vilifying the victims. Now let's talk about what makes hyenas such devastatingly effective hunters, because their physical capabilities read like something out of a superhero comic book. A single spotted hyena can take down prey that weighs 3 times more than they do. We're talking about 140-pound hyenas successfully killing 400-pound wildebeest. That's the equivalent of an average human successfully wrestling down a horse. It should be physically impossible, but hyenas make it look routine. Their hunting strategy is terrifyingly efficient. They're cursorial hunters, which means they're built for long-distance running. While lions are sprinters who give up after a few hundred yards, hyenas can maintain speeds of 37 miles per hour for several kilometers. Imagine being chased by a predator that never gets tired, never gives up, and just keeps coming at you mile after mile. It's like being pursued by the Terminator with 4 legs and fangs. But perhaps the most shocking demonstration of their predatory efficiency comes from their feeding behavior. Researchers once documented a group of 21 hyenas completely consuming a 220-pound wildebeest carcass in under 15 minutes. 15 minutes. They didn't just eat the meat, they devoured everything. Bones, hooves, hide, organs, everything. It was like watching a biological wood chipper in action. And this brings us to one of their most legendary capabilities, that bone-crushing bite. We touched on this earlier with their pseudo-penis evolution, but their jaws deserve their own spotlight because they're genuinely terrifying. Spotted hyenas generate 100 pounds per square inch of bite force. To put that in perspective, that's 7 times stronger than a human bite, stronger than a grizzly bear, and yes, stronger than a lion despite hyenas being significantly smaller. Their teeth are evolutionary masterpieces designed specifically for crushing. They have these specialized pyramidal molars with zigzag enamel patterns that resist fracturing even when they're pulverizing elephant bones. And their stomach acid? It has a pH close to 1. That's battery acid territory. This allows them to digest bones, hooves, horns, and other materials that would pass right through other carnivores undigested. This incredible digestive efficiency means that when hyenas are done with a carcass, there's literally nothing left. No evidence, no remains. It's gone. This is why early researchers rarely found hyena kills. Not because they weren't hunting, but because they were so thorough that they erased all evidence of their predatory success. The implications of this revelation extend far beyond just correcting misconceptions. It means that hyenas are actually one of Africa's most important ecological regulators. They're not just cleaning up after other predators, they're actively shaping ecosystem dynamics through their incredibly successful hunting pressure. They're the apex predators that other apex predators steal from. So the next time you see a nature documentary showing lions chasing hyenas away from a kill, remember what you're really watching. You're seeing the continent's most successful predators being robbed by the species that has gotten all the credit for their work. And that laughing call we mentioned earlier? Maybe they're not stressed after all. Maybe they're laughing at the cosmic joke that's been played on all of us, but their predatory prowess is just one piece of an even more extraordinary puzzle. Now, if you thought the hunting revelations were mind-bending, wait until you discover what might be the most extraordinary social revolution in the animal kingdom. We're about to dive into a world that completely flips everything you know about gender roles, power dynamics, and social hierarchy, not just in the animal world, but in ways that would make even the most progressive human societies look backwards. Picture this. You're watching a nature documentary, and you see what looks like a typical African predator scenario. There's a group of spotted hyenas, and naturally, you assume the biggest, most aggressive males are running the show, right? That's how it works with lions, wolves, most mammals. The males fight for dominance, establish territories, and call the shots while females focus on raising the young. Well, throw that entire assumption out the window. Because in hyena society, every single male, even the biggest, strongest, most aggressive male, is outranked by every single female, including the smallest juvenile female who just learned to walk. This isn't just unusual, this is revolutionary. We're talking about the only mammalian species on Earth where complete female dominance is the absolute rule. And I don't mean subtle female leadership or shared power. I mean total, uncompromising, biological and social female supremacy that makes every other matriarchal system in nature look like child's play. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. This isn't some quirky behavioral adaptation. It's written into their very DNA. Female spotted hyenas are larger than males, more muscular than males. And here's the kicker. They have 3 times more testosterone coursing through their veins than the males do. Think about that for a moment. The females are literally pumped full of the hormone we associate with male aggression and dominance, to levels that would make male bodybuilders jealous. Remember that traumatic pseudopenis we discussed earlier? Well, it turns out that nightmare anatomy serves a dual purpose that's absolutely brilliant from an evolutionary standpoint. Not only does it prevent forced copulation, but it also serves as a constant visual reminder of who holds the power. Males literally cannot reproduce without explicit female consent and cooperation, and females make them work for it. The courtship process is unlike anything else in the mammalian world. Males must spend months, sometimes years, displaying submissive behavior to even gain acceptance into the clan. And get this, they show submission by doing something that sounds almost comical if it weren't so scientifically documented. They present erect penises as surrender signals. Yes, you heard that correctly. In hyena society, male arousal is literally a submission display. It's like nature completely rewrote the rules of sexual signaling. But the female dominance goes far deeper than just physical power and reproductive control. Hyena clans operate like hereditary monarchies, with social rank passed directly from mother to daughter, like royal bloodlines. High-ranking females don't just rule, they create dynasties that can last for generations. Their daughters inherit not just social position, but entire political networks that would make Machiavelli weep with admiration. Recent GPS tracking studies have revealed something absolutely extraordinary. High-ranking hyena cubs don't just inherit their mother's rank, they inherit her entire social network. Every alliance, every friendship, every political connection that their mother built over decades of social maneuvering gets passed down like a family inheritance. It's essentially political nepotism on a biological level, creating a system where elite cubs are born into power structures that guarantee their success. This creates clan sizes that boggle the mind. While most mammalian social groups max out at a few dozen individuals, spotted hyena clans can exceed 130 members. We're talking about social organizations that rival small human communities in complexity. And unlike human societies, these aren't loose associations. These are tight-knit political networks where every individual knows their exact place in a hierarchy that can span multiple generations. The males? Well, they live in a completely different reality. When males reach sexual maturity, they're essentially exiled from their birth clans and forced to seek acceptance elsewhere. They become immigrants in foreign territories, starting at the absolute bottom of new hierarchies regardless of their size, strength, or fighting ability. A massive male hyena who could physically dominate any female will still grovel for scraps while juvenile females eat their fill. And here's what makes this system truly unprecedented. It works. These matriarchal clans don't just survive, they thrive. The political alliance networks that females build and inherit create incredibly stable social structures that can coordinate complex group hunts, defend enormous territories, and raise cubs with success rates that put other carnivores to shame. Recent research has revealed that this isn't just about female aggression or physical dominance, it's about sophisticated political intelligence. Females maintain their power through what can only be described as political coalition building. They form strategic alliances, remember favors and debts, and use social manipulation that rivals human politics in its complexity. But perhaps the most mind-blowing aspect of all this is how it challenges our fundamental assumptions about evolution and gender. For decades, scientists assumed that female dominance must come with evolutionary costs, that there had to be trade-offs that explained why this system was so rare. But hyenas have proven that assumption completely wrong. These matriarchal societies aren't evolutionary compromises, they're evolutionary masterpieces. The combination of female dominance, inherited social networks, and political coalition building has created one of the most successful large carnivore systems on Earth. While other African predators struggle with declining populations, spotted hyenas continue to thrive across vast territories. The implications extend far beyond just animal behavior. Hyena society represents proof that alternative social systems can not only work, but can outperform traditional patriarchal models. It's a living laboratory showing us possibilities that challenge our most basic assumptions about power, gender, and social organization. And we're still just scratching the surface of their extraordinary adaptations. All right, brace yourself for this next revelation, because what I'm about to tell you is going to completely scramble your understanding of how evolution works. You know how we just discovered that hyenas are apex predators running sophisticated matriarchal societies? Well, it turns out their entire evolutionary story is one massive plot twist that makes every other animal relationship seem predictable by comparison. Look at a spotted hyena for a moment. What do you see? Dog-like ears, a canine muzzle, that distinctive sloping back, and powerful legs built for running. Everything about them screams dog family, right? For decades, that's exactly what scientists thought too. It seemed obvious. Hyenas looked like dogs, acted somewhat like dogs, so they must be related to dogs. Case closed. Except evolution had been playing the ultimate long con for 22 million years. Here's where your brain is about to do a complete somersault. Despite looking exactly like they belong in the dog family, spotted hyenas are actually most closely related to cats, mongooses, and civets. Yes, you heard that correctly. These dog-looking, pack-hunting, bone-crushing predators are literally closer to your house cat than they are to any wolf, coyote, or domestic dog on the planet. This isn't just a minor taxonomic detail. This is one of the most spectacular examples of convergent evolution in the entire animal kingdom. Think about what this means. Hyenas and dogs independently evolved almost identical body plans, hunting strategies, and social behaviors, despite being separated by tens of millions of years of evolutionary history. It's like two completely different engineers, working in isolation, designing nearly identical machines to solve the same problem. But wait, it gets even more mind-bending. Scientists recently ran immunological tests comparing hyena proteins to various other carnivores, and guess what they found? The closest immunological match to spotted hyenas is the domestic cat. Not lions, not leopards. House cats. That's right. The bone-crushing, pack-hunting, 140-pound apex predators we've been discussing share more genetic similarities with Fluffy sleeping on your couch than they do with any member of the dog family. This revelation sent shockwaves through the evolutionary biology community, because it meant that everything we thought we understood about carnivore evolution needed to be completely rewritten. For over 22 million years, hyenas have been perfecting a lifestyle that looks exactly like what dogs would eventually evolve, but they did it from a completely different genetic starting point. Now here's where this story takes a turn that's so extraordinary it sounds like science fiction. Recent breakthroughs in paleogenomics, the study of ancient DNA, have revealed something that connects hyenas to human evolution in ways that nobody saw coming. University of Copenhagen researchers made a discovery that should be front-page news everywhere. Hyenas and humans left Africa at the same time, following nearly identical migration patterns across 3 separate waves spanning 2 million years. Let me paint this picture for you. Around 2 million years ago, climate changes began reshaping Africa in ways that made certain regions uninhabitable for both humans and hyenas. And here's the kicker. Both species responded by migrating out of Africa in synchronized waves. First wave, 2 million years ago. Second wave, 1.8 million years ago. Third wave, much more recently. The migration routes, nearly identical. The timing, eerily synchronized. This is not just coincidence. This suggests that humans and hyenas were responding to the same environmental pressures, using similar survival strategies, and quite possibly even interacting with each other throughout our shared evolutionary journey. We're talking about parallel evolution, not just in biology, but in behavior, migration patterns, and survival strategies. But the prehistoric hyena story gets even more incredible when we look at the fossil record. The diversity of ancient hyenas makes modern species look almost boring by comparison. There were giant short-faced hyenas called Pachycracuda brevirostris that stood 35 to 39 inches at the shoulder, approaching the size of modern lionesses but with bone-crushing abilities that could splinter elephant remains. These prehistoric giants weren't just scavengers, they were apex predators that actively hunted early humans. Bone damage on Homo erectus fossils that scientists originally attributed to cannibalism has now been proven to be hyena predation. Our ancestors weren't just competing with saber-toothed cats and cave bears. They were literally being hunted by hyenas the size of small horses. And here's perhaps the most shocking discovery of all. Advanced genetic analysis has proven that cave hyenas, those massive European relatives that lived alongside Neanderthals, didn't go extinct when we thought they did. They survived until at least 20,000 years ago, which means they coexisted with modern humans for thousands of years longer than previously known. But it gets better. These cave hyenas and spotted hyenas continued interbreeding for hundreds of thousands of years after their populations initially split. Modern spotted hyenas carry genetic signatures from multiple ancient lineages, meaning they're essentially living libraries of prehistoric hyena diversity. Recent discoveries have even found hyena fossils north of the Arctic Circle in Canada is Yukon territory, pushing their historical range over 10,000 kilometers further north than anyone imagined. We're talking about tropical African predators that somehow adapted to survive in Arctic conditions alongside mammoths and woolly rhinos. This completely reframes our understanding of hyena evolution. They weren't just African specialists. They were global colonizers with an adaptive capacity that rivals our own species. They conquered Europe, Asia, and came incredibly close to reaching the Americas, all while maintaining their core identity as bone-crushing, socially complex predators. The implications are staggering. Hyenas represent one of evolution's greatest success stories, a lineage that independently evolved optimal predatory solutions, established global distribution, survived multiple ice ages, and continues thriving today. They're living proof that evolution can produce the same brilliant solutions from completely different starting points. And as we'll see next, their evolutionary innovations extend far beyond just anatomy and behavior. Now let's dive into something that's going to completely redefine how you think about animal communication. We've already established that hyenas are apex predators with primate-level intelligence running the most sophisticated matriarchal societies in nature. But what we haven't talked about yet is how they coordinate all of this complexity across territories that can span over 1,000 square kilometers. The answer lies in a communication system so advanced that it rivals human language in its complexity and sophistication. You know that iconic hyena laugh that's become the soundtrack of every African documentary? Well, prepare to have your mind blown, because that's not laughter at all. It's actually one component of the most intricate vocal communication system in the animal kingdom outside of human speech. Spotted hyenas produce over 26 distinct vocalizations, and each one carries specific encoded information that other clan members can decode with incredible precision. We're not talking about simple barks or howls here. These are sophisticated acoustic packages that convey identity, age, dominant status, emotional state, and even tactical information about hunting strategies and territorial conflicts. But let's start with that famous whoop call, because this single vocalization is an engineering marvel that puts our best communication technology to shame. A hyena's whoop can travel more than 3 miles through the African savanna, cutting through wind, rain, and the cacophony of other wildlife. That's roughly equivalent to shouting across 50 city blocks and still being clearly understood. But here's where it gets truly extraordinary. Embedded within that single whoop is an individual acoustic signature that's as unique as a human fingerprint. Every hyena has a distinct vocal identity that allows clan members to recognize exactly who is calling from miles away. Imagine being able to identify any of your family members or friends just from hearing them shout hello from 3 miles away, even if you hadn't heard their voice in months. That's the level of acoustic recognition we're dealing with here. And this isn't just impressive party trick. It's a survival necessity. When you're managing social relationships with over 130 clan members across territories larger than most human cities, you need a communication system that can cut through the noise and deliver precise information instantly. Recent acoustic analysis has revealed something that sounds like it belongs in a spy thriller. Hyenas can assess the numerical strength of rival clans through vocalizations alone. They're essentially conducting audio-based military intelligence. By listening to the whoops, growls, and calls of approaching competitors, defending hyenas can determine whether they're outnumbered or if they have a tactical advantage. This acoustic assessment directly influences their decision to fight or retreat. It's real-time strategic intelligence gathering through sound. But that legendary laugh, the giggle that's become synonymous with hyenas, tells an even more fascinating story. For generations, people assumed hyenas were laughing at their victims or expressing some kind of malicious joy. The reality is far more complex and emotionally sophisticated. The hyena laugh is actually a stress and submission signal that functions like an emotional broadcast system. When researchers analyzed thousands of hours of hyena vocalizations, they discovered that the acoustic properties of each giggle encode specific information about the caller's age, sex, and current dominant status within the clan hierarchy. Think about that for a moment. A hyena's laugh is essentially a real-time status update that tells everyone within earshot exactly where that individual fits in the social pecking order and how stressed they're feeling about it. It's like if every human nervous laugh came with a detailed emotional and social metadata package that everyone could instantly decode. But vocal communication is only half the story. Hyenas have also evolved what might be the most sophisticated chemical communication system in the mammalian world. Their anal gland secretions contain over 78 different bacterial genera. And here's the kicker. More than half of these bacterial species were previously unknown to science before researchers started studying hyena scent communication. These bacterial communities aren't just random microorganisms. They're carefully curated chemical factories that produce clan-specific scent signatures. Each hyena clan has its own unique bacterial profile that creates a distinctive group odor. It's like every clan has developed its own molecular cologne that serves as a biological ID card recognizable across thousands of kilometers of territory. When hyenas paste these secretions on grass stalks, a behavior called scent marking, they're essentially leaving chemical messages that other hyenas can read like billboards. These scent marks contain information about who passed through, when they were there, their reproductive status, their health condition, and their clan affiliation. It's a chemical information superhighway that operates 24/7 across vast territories. But perhaps the most mind-boggling aspect of hyena communication is how all these systems work together. During territorial disputes, hyenas coordinate vocal calls, scent marking, and visual displays in complex multimodal communication strategies that would make military communications specialists jealous. Picture this scenario. A rival clan is approaching territory boundaries. The defending hyenas don't just start whooping randomly. They engage in coordinated acoustic warfare, with different individuals taking specific vocal roles, some broadcasting identity and location information, others transmitting numerical assessments, and still others sending stress signals that rally clan members from across the territory. Simultaneously, they're rapidly updating scent marks to reinforce territorial claims and provide backup chemical information for any clan members who might arrive after the initial vocal exchange. It's like having a real-time battlefield communication network that operates on multiple sensory channels simultaneously. Recent studies using advanced acoustic monitoring equipment have revealed that hyena clans maintain what can only be described as communication networks that span their entire territory. Specific individuals act as acoustic relay points, amplifying and retransmitting calls to ensure information reaches every corner of their domain. This communication sophistication directly supports everything else we've discussed: their hunting success, their complex social hierarchies, their territorial dominance. And we're still discovering new layers to their communicative abilities. Just when you think we've covered everything extraordinary about hyenas, science throws us another curveball that makes all our previous discoveries look like warm-up acts. We're living through what can only be described as a golden age of hyena research, where cutting-edge technology and decades of patient fieldwork are converging to reveal secrets that are literally rewriting biology textbooks in real time. The breakthroughs I'm about to share with you aren't ancient history or dusty academic papers. These are discoveries from the last few years that are so revolutionary, most people haven't even heard about them yet. We're talking about findings that are fundamentally changing how we understand intelligence, behavior, and evolution itself. Let's start with something that should have made international headlines, but somehow flew under the radar. In 2020, Nature published a study that definitively proved something scientists had only theorized about. Wild hyenas possess reliable, consistent problem-solving abilities that remain stable across weeks and even months. Now you might think, okay, so hyenas are smart. We already knew that. But you're missing the revolutionary significance of this discovery. This was the first time anyone had ever documented stable individual cognitive traits in wild carnivores. We're talking about cognitive consistency that was previously thought to exist only in humans and a few great apes. Here's what the researchers did. They presented 72 wild-spotted hyenas with complex puzzle boxes over a 17-day period, then brought the same individuals back months later to test them again. Not only did the hyenas solve increasingly difficult puzzles, but each individual maintained their specific problem-solving style and capability level across time. Some hyenas were consistently innovative problem solvers, others were methodical, and still others were collaborative learners. And these traits remained stable like personality characteristics. This isn't just impressive, it's groundbreaking. It means hyenas possess what psychologists call cognitive personality. stable individual differences in how they process information and solve problems. Until this study, this level of cognitive consistency was considered a hallmark of advanced primate intelligence. But that's just the beginning of the recent revelations. Modern GPS collar technology has unlocked secrets about hyena behavior that would have been impossible to discover through traditional observation. And some of these discoveries are so extreme they sound like they belong in an adventure novel rather than a scientific journal. One male hyena, tracked continuously for 9 months, traveled over 4,000 miles. 4,000 miles! That's roughly the distance from New York to London, covered by a single animal moving through the African landscape. This represents one of the longest carnivore journeys ever recorded, and it completely shattered our assumptions about hyena mobility and territorial behavior. But here's what makes this discovery truly mind-bending. This wasn't random wandering. GPS data revealed that this male was methodically exploring and mapping potential territories across multiple countries, testing boundaries with different clans, and gathering what can only be described as intelligence about regional social dynamics. He was essentially conducting a continental reconnaissance mission. This discovery has forced scientists to completely reconsider hyena cognition and planning abilities. We're talking about an animal capable of executing complex, long-term strategies that require spatial memory, risk assessment, and forward planning on a scale that rivals human exploration. Meanwhile, paleogenomic researchers have been rewriting evolutionary history with discoveries that sound like science fiction. Using revolutionary new techniques that can extract genetic information from fossils hundreds of thousands of years old, scientists have uncovered hyena evolutionary secrets that were literally buried for millennia. And we're still just scratching the surface. Current research using environmental DNA sampling, advanced behavioral analysis, and next-generation sequencing technologies continues revealing new aspects of hyena biology that challenge our most basic assumptions about mammalian evolution. The most profound realization from all these recent discoveries is that hyenas represent something entirely unprecedented in evolutionary history. All right, we've covered hyenas as apex predators, social masterminds, evolutionary marvels, and communication geniuses. But now we're going to dive into the biological adaptations that are so extreme, so perfectly engineered, that they seem to violate the basic rules of how animals are supposed to work. We're talking about evolutionary solutions so radical that if you pitched them in a science fiction novel, editors would reject them as too unbelievable. Think about what we've already discovered. These animals give birth through pseudopenises, outperform chimpanzees in intelligence tests, run sophisticated matriarchal governments, and maintain communication networks across territories larger than most countries. But their biological hardware? That's where hyenas truly enter the realm of the impossible. Let's start with something that should be a death sentence for any wild animal: their diet. While we've established that hyenas are incredible hunters, they're also opportunistic scavengers when the situation calls for it, and this is where their first impossible adaptation comes into play. Spotted hyenas routinely consume carcasses that would kill most mammals outright. We're talking about meat crawling with anthrax, botulism, rabies, and bacterial cocktails that would send other carnivores into toxic shock within hours. Yet hyenas don't just survive this biological minefield, they thrive on it. How is this possible? Remember those immune system discoveries we touched on earlier? Well, the full picture is even more extraordinary. Hyenas have evolved what can only be described as biological hazmat suits encoded in their DNA. Massive expansions of immune-related gene families have created antimicrobial defense systems that are literally unprecedented in the mammalian world. Their enhanced antimicrobial peptides, including specialized cathelicidin and defensin compounds, create immune responses that function like biological warfare against pathogens. These aren't just stronger versions of normal immune responses. They're entirely new categories of molecular defense mechanisms that scientists are still trying to fully understand. But their pathogen resistance is just the beginning. Let's talk about their physical construction, because hyenas are built like biological tanks designed by an engineer who ignored all conventional limitations. Starting from birth, hyena cubs represent an evolutionary impossibility. They're born with eyes wide open and teeth fully erupted, a combination that's unique among all carnivores. Think about what this means. While lion cubs are born blind and helpless, hyena cubs emerge ready for immediate competition. They can see, bite, and fight from day one. It's like they skip the vulnerable infancy stage entirely and jump straight into adolescence. But their jaw construction is where hyenas truly enter record-breaking territory. We've mentioned their 100 psi bite force, but the engineering behind this capability is mind-bending. Their specialized pyramidal teeth aren't just strong. They're designed with zigzag enamel structures that resist fracturing even when crushing bones that would shatter other animals' teeth. And their skull architecture? It's a masterpiece of biomechanical engineering. Hyenas have evolved enlarged sagittal crests, those bony ridges on top of their skulls, that provide attachment points for jaw muscles so powerful they can generate crushing forces that exceed animals twice their size. Their heads are essentially biological vices disguised as mammalian faces. Then there's their digestive system, which operates like a biochemical furnace that can break down materials other animals can't even attempt to process. Their stomach acid reaches pH levels close to 1. That's approaching battery acid territory. This extreme acidity allows them to dissolve bones, hooves, horns, and keratin structures that pass through other carnivores completely undigested. But here's where it gets truly impossible. Their digestive efficiency means they extract nutrients from materials that shouldn't be nutritious. They're literally converting waste into energy with a biological conversion rate that would make renewable energy engineers jealous. Their physical construction reveals more impossibilities. Hyenas have front legs longer than their hind legs, creating that distinctive sloping profile that's perfectly engineered for long-distance pursuit hunting. This unusual proportioning creates a locomotion system that's optimized for sustained running rather than sprinting. It's like having a biological all-terrain vehicle designed for marathon endurance. Their paws deserve special mention because they represent another engineering marvel. 4 webbed digits with non-retractable claws provide exceptional traction during high-speed pursuits across varied terrain. While cats have retractable claws for climbing and dogs have claws for digging, hyenas have evolved specialized pursuit claws that function like biological cleats for maximum ground contact during extended chases. But perhaps their most impossible adaptation is their territorial management capability. Individual hyena territories can exceed 1,000 square kilometers, larger than any other carnivore species. To put this in perspective, that's larger than the entire city of Los Angeles. A single hyena clan manages territories that would challenge modern GPS navigation systems to adequately map. How do they patrol such vast areas? Through sophisticated fission-fusion dynamics where clan members constantly split into smaller groups, coordinate movements across enormous distances, and merge back together in precisely orchestrated patterns. It's like watching a military operation conducted by animals that somehow developed strategic coordination abilities without radio communication. And their milk production capabilities break more biological rules. Hyena milk contains the highest protein and fat content of any terrestrial carnivore, so energy-dense that mothers can carry up to 8.8 pounds of milk in their udders. This nutritional powerhouse fuels the 12-18-month nursing periods necessary for developing those legendary bone-crushing capabilities we've discussed. The most impossible aspect of all these adaptations is how they work together as an integrated system. Each extreme capability supports and enhances the others, creating a biological design that seems too perfectly optimized to have evolved through random processes. Yet here they are, living proof that evolution can produce solutions so radical they challenge our understanding of what's biologically possible. So here we are, at the end of a journey that's taken us from everything we thought we knew about hyenas to a reality so extraordinary it reads like evolutionary science fiction. And if you're feeling a little overwhelmed right now, if your brain is struggling to process just how wrong we've all been about these remarkable creatures, then you're having exactly the right reaction. Let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer magnitude of what we've just discovered together. We started this video with the simple premise that hyenas might be more interesting than we'd been told. But what we've uncovered isn't just more interesting. It's a complete paradigm shift that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about intelligence, evolution, society, and biological possibility itself. We've learned that spotted hyenas aren't scavengers. They're apex predators whose hunting success rates put lions to shame. We've discovered that their laughing calls aren't mockery, but sophisticated stress signals embedded in communication networks that rival human language complexity. We've seen that their societies aren't chaotic scavenger gangs, but intricate matriarchal governments, where political dynasties span generations and females wield power with a sophistication that would make Machiavelli jealous. But perhaps most mind-bending of all, we've uncovered biological adaptations so extreme they seem to violate the basic rules of how mammals are supposed to work. Birth through pseudopenises that should be evolutionarily impossible but serve as brilliant anti-rape devices. Immune systems that treat deadly pathogens like appetizers. Jaw strength that can pulverize elephant bones, and digestive systems that extract nutrients from materials other animals can't even attempt to process. And through it all, we've seen intelligence that consistently outperforms chimpanzees, problem-solving abilities that remain stable like personality traits, and cognitive flexibility that allows individual hyenas to execute 4,000-mile reconnaissance missions across multiple countries. The implications of these discoveries extend far beyond just correcting misconceptions about a single species. Hyenas represent something unprecedented in evolutionary history. A biological design so perfectly optimized for survival that they've conquered territories larger than most human cities, established societies more stable than most human governments, and developed technologies of communication and cooperation that we're still struggling to fully understand. But here's what might be the most profound realization of all. If we can be this spectacularly wrong about an animal that's been living right alongside humans for millions of years, what else are we missing? Think about it. Hyenas have been sharing the African landscape with our species since before we left the continent. They've been part of human folklore, mythology, and storytelling for millennia. They appear in our documentaries, our zoos, our nature programs. They're not some mysterious deep-sea creature or recently discovered rainforest species. They're one of Africa's most visible and well-known animals. Yet despite centuries of observation, despite decades of scientific study, despite their prominence in human consciousness, we got almost everything about them wrong. Not slightly wrong, not partially wrong, completely, fundamentally, embarrassingly wrong. This should be humbling for all of us. It should make us question what other extraordinary adaptations, what other biological masterpieces, what other evolutionary marvels we're walking past every day without truly seeing them. The hyena story is ultimately a story about the power of rigorous science to overturn comfortable assumptions. It's about how GPS collars, genetic sequencing, long-term behavioral studies, and patient observation can reveal truths so shocking they force us to completely rewrite our understanding of the natural world. But it's also a story about respect. Respect for the intelligence, complexity, and evolutionary genius of creatures we'd dismissed as simple scavengers. Spotted hyenas aren't just survivors. They're biological masterpieces that have solved problems we're still struggling with. They've created sustainable societies, developed effective governance structures, mastered long-range communication, and achieved ecological success that puts most other large carnivores to shame. As we face our own challenges as a species, environmental destruction, social inequality, resource scarcity, and climate change, maybe it's time to pay attention to the hyenas. They've been running successful societies based on female leadership, cooperative hunting, sophisticated communication, and sustainable resource management for millions of years. They've survived ice ages, habitat changes, and human expansion while maintaining their ecological dominance. Perhaps most importantly, the hyena story reminds us that nature still holds secrets that can astonish us. In an age when we often feel like we've mapped, cataloged, and understood everything, hyenas prove that extraordinary discoveries are still waiting for anyone curious enough to look beyond surface appearances and patient enough to let science reveal the truth. The next time you hear a hyena's call echoing across the African savanna, remember what you've learned today. That's not the sound of a scavenger. That's the voice of one of evolution's greatest success stories, a biological masterpiece calling across territories larger than most countries, coordinating societies more complex than most human civilizations, and laughing, maybe not with stress after all, but with the confidence of a species that has mastered the art of survival in ways we're only beginning to understand. The kings of Africa aren't lions. They never were. They're the matriarchs of the spotted hyena clans, ruling their empires with intelligence, cooperation, and evolutionary innovations that continue to surprise us. And that might just be the most beautiful plot twist evolution has ever written.